everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Think Tank Thursday. As you know, I'm Candy Kelly from Train Entertainment, and I am here as your guest and as your host for this week. So before we jump in, let me give a shout out to my 2023 Think Tank sponsors. We've got Knox, Redemption Plus, Betson, Delta Strike. We also have a Roller as a 2023 sponsor, and today's guest comes from a Roller. So we'll jump into that in just a second. You know, on Thursdays, Train Entertainment likes to spend a little bit of time away from the doing, and I know there's a lot to be done, but we got to try and spend some time thinking about our business and ways to improve it and make it better. And so this week, we are going to spend that time thinking about the 5 ways FECs can use technology to improve operational efficiency. And can't we all be more efficient in some ways? So super exciting topic, lots to learn here. So why don't we jump in with our guest for this week? Josh, welcome back to Think Tank Thursday. For those who may not remember, do you mind reminding them who you are and what company you're representing?
Absolutely. Candy, thanks so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Josh Liebman. I'm the guest experience evangelist for Roller, which I always think is just a fun title to tell people. Definitely the most unique job title that I've ever had. Roller is a venue management software platform for the leisure and attractions industry. We focus on point of sale, on ticketing, and a lot of the digital aspects of the guest experience. And one of the biggest components of Roller is really using technology to remove friction from many aspects of the guest experience. And I know that's going to be a lot of our topic today, because it can help to increase attendance, it can help to increase revenue and per cap, and be able to improve operational efficiency as well.
Yes, and like Josh says, that's what we're going to concentrate on today. This is in reference to a blog that will be posted that also went out in the Train Entertainment newsletter that's talking about 5 ways FEC can use technology to improve operational efficiency. And we can all probably be a little bit more efficient in the things that we do and lean a little bit more into technology. One thing about the Family Entertainment Center industry is that we're a little bit slower to embrace some of the technology that is out there. So Josh is here to help us speed up and let us know why it's important to do that. And so, but before we jump into your list, I have a fun question for you, if you don't mind, Josh.
Sure.
What is a recent technological advancement in this industry that intrigues you the most?
It's such a tough question because there's so many. I think just in the last 3 years, we've just seen such an acceleration of a lot of emerging trends. There were a lot of things that I would say, like pre-COVID, were kind of brewing and picking up traction here and there, and then so many things really just launched into full force because of the pandemic, and a lot of them, as we can see, are very much here to stay. I mean, even just things of requiring guests to buy in advance for certain venues, for those particularly as they were dealing with capacity restrictions, and being able to have the technology to manage that. Time ticketing, we've seen that in many areas of the industry, but it becoming more prevalent in areas that hadn't previously embraced it, and whether they've just incorporated that into their standard operations forever. I know that my local aquarium has done that they previously hadn't done that before, and just a lot of other things to really take away some friction that maybe guests didn't even realize that they had. Someone was asking me not too long ago of what the experience used to be like from from just a ticket purchase and entry process. And when I think of an amusement park, it's sort of kind of where I started my career. You would decide on the day that you want to visit, and you would get there. You'd drive and you'd wait in line in your car at the toll plaza to pay for parking to get in, and then you'd park your car, and then you'd go wait in line at the ticket booth to buy your ticket, and then you'd go wait in line at the turnstile to scan your ticket and get into the park. And now you just waited in 3 lines before you even started having any fun, right? 3 mandatory lines. So I think all of those things that are able to take out those friction. I know this isn't like a concrete, like a one definite example, but all of those things that really help to remove some of the friction that maybe guests didn't even realize that they had because they were just so accepted as part of the guest experience, I find to be really intriguing. And even looking to the future of thinking, what does it look like 10 years from now? What does it look like 20 years from now? I can't even project what friction points we have now that maybe we're not even acknowledging.
It's funny though, because once you remove the friction, though, guests don't want that friction back, even if they did not know it existed at all to begin with.
Right. Well, even to touch on that, when other industries remove friction from their experience, we feel it in our industry as well. So when we look at Netflix, we don't need to drive to Blockbuster anymore and peruse aisles to determine what one movie we're going to have for the weekend, right? We've got all of that available at our fingertips. I mean, I can even, Uber, Amazon, Booking.com, all of those, they've impacted the experience in our industry. We need to look at what that experience is like outside of the attraction space to say, what friction points do we have that guests are starting to be much more critical of that we need to alleviate?
Agree. I have clients that are in the movie theater business, and I had told them recently, I was like, we need to do a case study, because I don't think there's any industry that has been turned upside down as many times in one generation, because I can remember all of those events in my generation, other than the movie industry, and how interesting that is.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
But another comment, another episode maybe in the future. So one of the things, efficiency and technology, and you just talked about frictionless, which is a great segue into the things that you have on this list here. So let's jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is really about promoting advanced sales. And, we see more and more people who want to commit to things in advance. This could be kind of a lingering impact of the pandemic that I think positively impacts our industry. Of people want to secure that commitment. Some of them are requiring people to purchase in advance, and that of course depends on just what your capacity levels are at any given time. But promoting advanced sales really can help to help increase your attendance, help increase your per capita spending, help increase your overall revenue, and then really increase the efficiency on site. If people already already have purchased admission, purchased passes when they get there, then it really just takes away a lot of some of the friction that we talked about that was very accepted. Of I show up and I buy my tickets, but if you show up with your tickets in hand, now you're having fun quicker. You're getting to what you paid to do, right? And that can also enhance in-park spending as well with food and beverage, with retail, with games, with all the other ancillary spend that you have within your facility. If people already bought in advance.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you mentioned in the blog that I read is just about abandoned carts. And for anyone who isn't familiar with that term, first tell them what an abandoned cart is, and then how you should keep that in mind to reduce this from happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's think about it in the real world. If you go to the grocery store and you fill up your cart with groceries, and then before you even get to the checkout line, you just leave and go home, all those groceries are put in the cart, but you didn't buy them, right? And now somebody has to go put them back. Well, I guess you don't have to put them back in the digital space.
Virtual world, yeah.
But that is, a guest who expressed intent to visit. They're on your website. They may have gone through some part of the checkout flow where it comes to buying admission, buying tickets. And for whatever reason, they didn't make a purchase. They clicked away from it. Maybe their phone rang. Maybe they need to think on this decision a little bit more. Maybe they need to think about it or talk about it with their family. But there's also a lot of other things too that happen within the checkout space that can either be friction points that lead to more abandoned carts, or that can really help the guest feel comfortable and intuitively get to that checkout much more seamlessly. So one of them, and I'll tell you, Roller's chief product officer, Rich Steers, he had this great quote when I had him on the Guest Experience Show podcast. He said, "Stop thinking like an operator and start thinking like a guest." So think about, let's say there's that mom that on a Tuesday night, she's sitting on her couch, she's got Netflix in the background, and she is scrolling through her phone. She sees an ad for your venue, she clicks on the ad, and how quickly can she get from that standpoint of clicking on the ad into your website to now committing to visiting with her family for the weekend? Does she need to get up, find her purse, pull out her wallet, read all the numbers off the credit card, things that were very accepted, very normal just a few years ago? There's a lot of things that we could do today that really take all of that friction out of just the experience of buying a ticket. So how much text is there? Does the guest need to scroll? Does the guest need to read a lot of information? And hey, look, you've got a lot of policies, a lot of procedures, a lot of things to communicate with your guests, but is it concise? Is the guest able to understand all of that properly? Or is there also a lot of it that can be moved to after the purchase as well that helps kind of bridge the transaction to the on-site visit? that can be done after the actual purchase that won't actually impact the guest's decision to visit or not. And then into the actual transaction itself. So I gave that example of, do I need to get off the couch and go find my wallet and type in all the credit card numbers? Or if I've got Apple Pay, I'm able to just, boom, use facial recognition. Now I've bought this. Now this was super easy. And now that mom who's sitting on the couch doesn't even have to pause Netflix to get up and do any of those things. Don't even need to take a single step to be able to make that transaction, make that purchase. So something like Apple Pay, something like Google Pay, where all of that information is stored on your phone, leveraging technology that exists, that that the mobile device manufacturers, they want to help influence as well, of just being able to connect those dots.
I feel
Another
so
one
seen
too.
there because I am that person. Like if you're like, and I want people to understand that you don't have to take Apple Pay and Google Pay in your stores to have your website set up to be able to read it. Like Google stores a lot of my payment things, I have to put something in, but there are some websites, because they're not mobile optimized in that way, they don't link, and so Google doesn't even suggest my payment thing. So making sure that you're totally mobile optimized so that all of those features for the user are there.
Yeah.
It's also your chief product officer. I tell people all the time, and I hope, I would assume Roller does too, once you set up like your parties or anything you're selling online, it's one thing to set it up from the back end. That's what we get to know really well, right? Setting up products, packages, all that stuff from the back end. But have a different email address so that you can go in from a user base and start from the beginning and see what did it annoy you? Because if it annoyed you and you know what you're selling, it's definitely going to annoy somebody else.
100%. Grab someone else's phone, or like you said, that go through the process as if you are the guest who is doing it. You talk about birthday parties. When you think about all the information that's needed for a birthday party, well, you need your name, you need the date of the visit, you need the time of the visit, you need to know how many guests are present, you know which package. All of those are critical to the transaction. I'm sure there might be a few that I'm forgetting as well. But then if you think about what's the theme of the birthday party, what toppings do you want on the pizza, what flavor cake do you want, whatever it is, there's a lot of things that can be post-transaction as well. So kind of tying into what I was saying of divide that out, what can be done after the commitment's already made? That could be a huge sticking point if the guest needs to determine all of these things when booking the party, to say, why can't I just book it now and then think about it? It's not for another month. Let me at least sit and think about it, and then respond to that, fill out the rest of it once that's complete.
I also think some of the way in which it's fed to you when you're booking something, like if you ask me 5 questions in one page where I have to scroll up and down, because so many transactions are done on the phone now. Like where I have to scroll up and down, like I'm gonna get annoyed and be like, I'll just go back to it later on my computer. And then you have the chance that I won't go back to it. But
Right.
if you can just feed me up like 1 or 2 questions and it's real quick to get to that, and the way that it feeds to me in a mobile way, that really has an effect whether I get to the end of that transaction or not as well.
Yeah, I forgot what the actual percentages, but it's a high number of percentage of users that we're seeing who are specifically on smartphone and on Safari. So it's like, okay, the iPhone user needs to be a critical component of it, and like what you were saying as far as of what are they, how many questions are they answering, how much scrolling are they doing, how much text are they doing? Let's optimize it for each way that guests are making that purchase, whether it's on desktop, whether it's on tablet, or whether it's on smartphone, and making it easy to do it. We talked about birthday parties, and I think one of the other things too is birthday parties are expensive. So that in and of itself could be a friction point that leads to an abandoned cart. But now you enter buy now, pay later. If you're familiar with that, that's where you can break up your transaction into multiple payments. So you don't need to pay for the whole thing today, and you're also not going to deal with paying high credit card interest rates on your card if you're able to actually split it up into multiple payments. And so things like Afterpay, Zip Pay, they're just ways that you can integrate that into the transaction and say, yeah, these birthday parties, yeah, it might be kind of expensive, but if I could break it up into chunks, it makes it a little bit more palatable. And then that could be the difference of the guest having the party at your venue or not.
Yeah. It's also interesting because another tip with that, if you can get the party totally paid in full beforehand, there's a psychological barrier that is removed the day of the party. So then when birthday child asks for her and her friends to have cotton candy, well, I don't have to I'm not paying anything else that day. So there is more freedom in my wallet on that day.
It's like that for any advanced sales, whether it's a birthday party, even standard admission. You walk in, your wallet feels full again. So all that ice cream, all that food and beverage spend, that's we categorize that differently in our heads of this is not all part of the same spend. This was days ago, weeks ago, whatever it is. This is just what I'm spending today. Oh, it's not so much. It's not so bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
The next tip that you have to deal with something that can cause a lot of friction. I have 2 kids. We have gone to different family entertainment centers to get them to be still because I'm forced to fill out a piece of paper or stand at a particular place to do a waiver. I would much rather sit in my car. And that is a possibility, right? Like, it should be easy for me to sit in my car and do it.
Yes, Andy, it should be very easy for you to be able to do that. And especially if it ties in with the ticket purchase process. So this is actually one of the examples of one of the things that you want to focus on after the transaction. So it doesn't hang the guest up if, let's say, a certain person's not in the room to sign their waiver when you're actually buying the tickets, of being able to do it after the transaction, but before the visit, completing the waiver digitally online, having it tied together and associated with the guest's purchase record. Now that makes it a lot more efficient from even just a data management side of it, of you've got all the information on hand, but when the guest gets there, they've already done it, right? So here's my phone, here's the barcode, whatever it is, just scan it. Boom, Candy's ticket is paid for, and she signed the waiver. Everybody in the party has signed the waiver, and now we're good to go. So think about, just the amount of clipboards that you might be handing out with the pen on the string, and then
for a long time.
Back, and then goes in a filing cabinet in a dusty office. And then as you grow, you need more filing cabinets. You're running out of space. Just do it all digitally and just save all that space, and then you've got immediate access to those records if you ever do need to pull them up.
And here's a place where I think that you can meet your guest where they are. And so is there still a need for kiosk on site as well as having mobile friendly processes, in your opinion?
For now, I would say yes. And it's for exactly the reason you just said. You want to meet your guests where they are. Because even though we talk about kind of more and more, digital adoption, and I talked about the X amount of percentage of those using Safari and using iPhones, using smartphones. There's still there's going to be a subset of your guests who wake up on the day of their visit, come to you, buy tickets, and and complete the whole process there. So in the interest of meeting the guests where they are, yeah, you want to have those kiosks available. It might not be as as many as you needed 5 years ago, because hopefully we're seeing an even more adoption towards mobile and doing all of that in advance. But just because you are doing something the way that a certain amount of guests want it to be done, you don't want to make a guest do something the way that you want for it to be done. So you want for them to be able to do it in what is most comfortable for them. And whether that's buying tickets on site or signing the waiver, processing the waiver, it can still be digital, but it's done through the waiver kiosk on site.
Yeah, I love places that not only have the waiver kiosk, but there's a QR code hanging somewhere. So if I don't want to go and stand there, I can do it on my phone. Maybe I just didn't know how to get to that link or whatever, but I can scan it real quick and get there and not take space at a kiosk.
And now you're doing it online on site.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Awesome. Next, so we're moving on to number 3. Let me look down this list here. Number 3 may be a sticky one here. So what is the next tip for you that you share?
So the tip is reduce labor with kiosks. And our industry has just absolutely been through the ringer the last few years when it comes to finding quality talent to be able to staff our venues. And we're all looking for ways to do more with less, I would say. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a challenge with labor, and I know most, if not our entire industry does, kiosks are a good way to really alleviate that labor, because there are a lot of functional mechanics of the job that the staff doesn't necessarily need to do. There's so much, we can have so much more agency over our experience. Ideally, we want guests to be buying online and be able to go through the transaction on their own, at home or on the couch or in the car, on this, not while driving, but sitting in a parking lot or as a passenger. But when they arrive on site, those who may not have purchased tickets, it's a very good way to reduce labor by having kiosks available that people are able to go through a similar process as if they were buying with a point of sale cashier or buying on their phone or at home.
Yes. I said that's going to be a sticky topic because there's lots of debate out there about, what does adding kiosk do for the guest experience? What does it do it for our guest service? We pride ourselves on personal guest service, person to person. And so what are your takes on that? How do you feel that kiosk in place of do you think it decreases the guest experience?
If you eliminate your greeter position at your venue or like all of your point of sale cashiers and you replace that with a kiosk or kiosks, then yes, I do think that decreases the guest experience. I think that the best way to do it is really about balancing the two. So like I mentioned a second ago, is that we don't need the staff anymore to do the actual swipe of the credit card, but they are there as a guest service ambassador, as someone who is knowledgeable and proficient about the venue. And this really can be used to actually drive revenue up. So the best ways that I've seen this is if you think about the traditional point of sale model, kind of the box office style model, there's one employee, one team member to one registered, one point of sale, and then the queue forms and next available in line. With kiosks, now guests are a little bit more free-flowing to find a kiosk that's available, and staff are a little bit more free-flowing as well. And so instead of having that 1-to-1 ratio of staff member to point of sale, now you can spread that out. Maybe it's 1-to-3, maybe it's 1-to-4. And now guests are going through, they're looking at the options. The staff is there to proactively offer help, not say, next in line, come with me, I'm gonna process your transaction. But what questions do you have? Have you been here before? Are you familiar with what our packages are? Are you aware of our ultra premium plus VIP exclusive package, whatever it is? Now they're taking on more of a consultative sales role rather than the transactional cashier. And so this actually really enhances the guest experience, because when we look at just that transactional nature of it, next in line, how can I help you? How many adults, how many kids? Your total is $45.86, cash or card. Do you need a receipt? Go that way. Now have a nice day. And obviously, a little pizzazz, a little hospitality with that. But taking that out of the equation, the guest goes through the process on their own. The staff is there to help them. The staff is there to be able to consult with them on what options they have. Hey, if you live locally, I recommend becoming a member. And the membership options can be found on this screen. You can do that. Then the staff member can remove themselves from that conversation and assist the next guest while the guest decides what it is that they're going to purchase and actually go through the transaction on their own. So does it decrease the guest experience? Yes, if you are eliminating the employee altogether and the guest is just greeted by a kiosk. Or does it enhance the guest experience when you re-alter the role of that frontline team member to actually, I would say, increase the hospitality of the arrival experience?
I could not agree more. Again, I've said before,
We've
got to meet guests where they are, and we're at all different. I like self-checkouts. My dad can't stand them, will not use them for anything. But sometimes my dad takes my girls to do fun types of things. So you've got to meet me where I am and my dad's generation where they are too. And so having that on there, but I think, yes, it can decrease the guest experience if you think that you can continue to do things the way you've always done and not give any more training or any of that when you add on these technological advances. Because what is different is, like Josh just described, when they're like, how many kids, how many adults, like that's all like, even that isn't all that personal sometimes if you're incredibly busy. And I've been at places that are incredibly busy at that front, and it's really just get one after the other. If I could take that person, give them some training in body language. We all have a look when we're kind of confused or we're looking around, something on the kiosk is out, and teach them about some of those things so they can be the helper and the guide to allow them to have the fun that they want to have faster. Then that just enhances the experience so much more. But if you just gave them the same skills of bringing people up really fast and not teaching them anything more, I think it can decrease the guest experience.
100%. And even what you were saying of meeting guests where you are, you said you like a self checkout. Your dad can't stand it. So now you've got two separate guests who have different needs. You have the guest who says, "Don't worry, I got this. I'll let you know if I have any questions." And then there's the guest who says, "Can you please give me the traditional experience?" And now you've got the flexibility to be able to meet guests where they are and the way that they want to go through the transaction.
I also think just other ways, so much you see the trend, family entertainment centers are not just attractions anymore. You've got restaurants and bars and social aspects to them and all of that. And so, which is great because we are appealing to a larger demographic of people. But that also means at times I'm sitting at a table talking to my friends and my daughter wants a refill on like a game card or wants something else. Like to be able to either go to a kiosk and do it real fast that's close to the table. Maybe I don't have to walk all the way to the front of the building. Or even if there's like mobile options that I can do things like that. Like all of those things, we should be embracing the technology and asking how can it better the experience? Not, oh my gosh, this is taking away from the person-to-person contact.
100%. Because sometimes in that example you gave, it's actually easier without a person. I'm just, hey, I can just go there, boom, do it, and then and be done with it. And sometimes that that can be the higher element of hospitality, because now the staff can be there to proactively engage with guests when they need to, when they have the opportunity to enhance the experience or to resolve service failure issues as they need to.
And I can get back to my table and maybe order another drink or another appetizer, a dessert, increase that per cap, whatever it may be, because I was not taken away to do this other kind of more tedious thing. So
Exactly.
um, all right. The next one is expedite guests who bought online. Can you expand a little bit more as to like how you think guests who bought online should be different?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's nice is I think we've got like this overarching message of like meet the guest where they
Yeah.
are, and like I think everything sort of kind of falls into that. So you have your guests who purchased in advance, and you have your guests who want to buy on site. Those guests should have different avenues of getting into your venue. So those who bought online should not be waiting behind guests who are buying on site and in the moment, because we need to reward them for already making that purchase, already making that commitment. And I like to look at the flip side of it as well, of the guest who is buying in advance should not be waiting with the guests who are now entering who have bought online. So being able to really divide that up at really just at the point of entry, dividing out your guests to say, hey, do you need to buy here? You go this way. Did you already bypass that, be able to scan their tickets and get in right away? Really helps to improve the efficiency of the overall operation. So now we're talking about minimizing queues at your point of sale or at your kiosks, and being able to now kind of come full circle with kind of giving the guests the benefit that they've purchased online, and kind of even tying back to what I was saying at the very beginning of what are all these mandatory lines that we have to wait into just to get into the venue, just to have the experience that we paid for. You already paid, you go right in. I mean, I remember, the first time, I think it was probably over 20, maybe even close to 25 years ago, I bought a ticket to an amusement park online. I printed it off from home. That was the big crazy thing to do that. And I just remember walking right past the ticket booth going, you guys, I can get right past you. And I went straight to the turnstile. So it makes the guest feel good, but also improves the efficiency, and gives that guest the experience that they've paid for even quicker.
And for entertainment centers, this isn't unknown from what we've been doing. A lot of us have already had walk-in entryway and party entryway, because we don't want our party guests intermix and like go into the wrong place and then having to start over in another place. So you just separate it one more. Pre-purchase tickets, walk in, let me help you now, and party guests. And this is something we know. It's just adding one more option.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So the last one is to automate feedback collection. And so I'm going to let you dive into that. And then I think I have some follow-up questions there for you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we're kind of all talking about sort of improving operational efficiency here. So the way that guest feedback really comes into play here is if you're trying to collect information from your guests to be able to gauge satisfaction, I would say the traditional way is to ask guests directly. We talked about kind of the waiver on the clipboard earlier. So now there's the staff member at the exit with the clipboard and say, do you mind if I ask you a few questions on your way out? Maybe they've got a popcorn coupon. Maybe they got a discount for your next visit.
We did this in my operational days at one point. Yeah.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And sometimes the guests are tired. Maybe the kids are screaming. Maybe it's just like, I got to get out of here, but I'll talk to you tomorrow, like, but at that point, it's too late. So being able to improve the efficiency of your feedback collection is where you've got the opportunity to really automate that. When you're collecting all of your guests' contact information from your point of sale and from your transaction log, you've got their email address, you've got their phone number. So now you'd be able to actually ping them through software, not even with labor, not with someone calling them or someone asking them, but being able to get to them to inquire as to how their visit was. Think about Uber as probably kind of the next best example. The second you get out of an Uber, you're prompted kind of on the app of just how was your ride here, was it 1 through 5 stars? And then you've got the opportunity to say, why was it, why did you give that rating? What could have been improved? Obviously, they've got the tip part of it configured at that part of kind of closing out the experience. But just think about really coming full circle with the guest journey. Is we've had our first touch points with them online before they visited, with buying their tickets, with signing their waivers, with smoothing out what the arrival process will be. And then really on the other end of it is meeting them online again to be able to get their perceptions and being able to understand what went well about their visit and what the guest might say could have made their experience even better.
Got it. 2 questions here. Does Roller provide something that helps collect this feedback?
Yes, there's the guest experience score. So, and what's
Okay.
great is that it ties in the point of sale data. So, in a lot of surveys, and there's a lot of survey tools out there, it'll prompt you. They'll have to know, like, what day did you visit? What's your name? What's your contact information? With the guest experience score or the GX score, it's got all that information, so it's all tied directly. So we're getting straight to what were the perceptions about the guest's visit, and then it blends it all together from the reporting aspect, which the venue managers are able to see on the back end when looking at the aggregate data.
Talk about making it feel more personal too. You already know all that about me, then it feels like you're really asking me a question.
Yeah.
My second question here is, can you share the ideal operational flow of when you're like asking for this guest feedback? Like, is there a magical number of hours after I leave or any of those things that I should get asked for this? Or are there
Yeah.
some definite nots if there's not a magical number?
No, it's a good question. I mean, is there a magical number to say, like, do it like X amount of minutes after the guest? Well, first of all, you probably don't even always know when the guest leaves, because
Yeah.
when they arrived, when they scanned in. If it's a trampoline park, they're there for an hour, then yeah, when their experience ends. But in most cases, you don't necessarily have that information. So, at the latest, I would say like the following morning. If it is more of a timed experience, then maybe just a little bit after their visit, so they've got a minute to decompress, they've got a minute to process it. But timeliness really is key, because you want to avoid, if they did have either a poor experience or if they do have some constructive criticism for your venue, you want to get that from them versus learning about it from an online review or from social media, because you need to collect guest complaints in order to improve. We did a whole think tank topic on that, so I won't go too deep into that.
Even with the technology topic, though, if I don't have the guest feedback, then am I enhancing the guest experience or am I decreasing the guest experience?
Well,
it's our guests who are going to tell us that. Really.
Exactly. So you want to get to the guest before the guest posts online. You also asked, is there a time not to do it? And I think
there's definitely no tips.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely like probably more like concrete, like, no, this is the wrong time. And I've experienced this a couple of times. Check into a hotel and I immediately get to my room and pull up my laptop and connect to the Wi-Fi. And as part of like logging into Wi-Fi, it like prompts me for Net Promoter Score of like, how was your stay? I'm like, if you ask me about the check-in process and how clean my room is, maybe I can actually give you valuable data, but ask me after I check out how my stay was. If you want to time that portion of the feedback correctly. There was another time I pulled up to a valet at a hotel, and the gentleman came over to get my car, and he gives me the claim ticket. He says, you're going to call this number when you want your car, or prompt for this or whatever it is. And then he hands me another card, and it's got the TripAdvisor logo on it. And he said, and I would love it if you shared a positive review about me. And I literally looked at him and said, about what? About you telling me how to get my car back? Like, give me that TripAdvisor card at the end if I see you hustling and sweating and getting my car back and the AC's right and the bottle of water, whatever. Like, actually, like, give me something to review. So yeah, the timeliness absolutely is very important. You want to get to the guest in a short amount of time after their visit. Is probably the closest to a magical number I can give you.
I think it can't be too long after the visit too. There's always the fear that if they did have some criticism, that they have shared it elsewhere. But also, like, there's some of us who do a lot in our lives. So like, I am an IHG kind of loyalist. Like,
Yeah.
I stay at more IHG properties. So if you wait like 4 days and like, how was your stay? I'm like, which hotel? Which one are you talking about? Like, I don't remember.
Right. Yeah. So getting to them while it's fresh in their mind, to be able to get the most valuable feedback is the most critical. Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to recap these tips for everybody. So you shared 5 tips, or I'm going to let you recap. If you just want to go through the 1 through 5, just the titles of them real quick, that would be a great recap.
Sure. Number 1, promote advanced sales. Number 2, process waivers in advance. Number 3, reduce labor with kiosks. Number 4, expedite guests who bought online. And number 5, automate feedback collection.
And I'm just going to add a number 6, which you won't find in the blog. Meet guests where they are, because that seemed to have, came out as an overarching theme of this conversation that we're having together.
It could be like number 0, like even before number 1.
Yeah, even before. Think of that first. We're meeting guests where they are. And so thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for your time. You're so generous to come and share all this with us. We close. You're regular. I have a signature think tank question. So what are you doing currently in this season to consistently grow yourself?
Sure. So I'm constantly thinking about, how can I improve skills in this area? How can I learn a new skill? How can I grow and improve in whatever? And in many languages, the word learn comes from the same root word as the word teach, that the two actually are kind of one and the same. So I've tried to take that and say, well, how do I learn it as if I'm teaching it? And I think there's a lot of studies on this. I know that I've sort of kind of seen this mentioned in a few people who post about this kind of stuff on Twitter or in blogs or whatever it is. And one of the best ways to learn something is to really repackage it as if you are teaching. And sometimes I might say, like, teach it to a 5-year-old or to a child. How would you explain this? I have a 2-year-old. I'm thinking, all right, how would I explain this to Jacob, my son, right? So for the last year or so, I've been trying to learn piano and have been struggling with it. And so I'm trying to like reframe it of saying, like, instead of like, how can I learn it? It would be like, how would I explain what I'm learning if I'm teaching it? So that's one of the things that I'm trying to weave into many aspects of life as I try to grow and improve and enhance skills in all areas.
I tell you, kids, they'll make you really refine those skills. I am struggling to teach my 5-year-old the difference between yesterday and tomorrow. She just like, everything is tomorrow. Like, right. So she'll be like, tomorrow I did this. I mean, you mean yesterday we went there? She's like, tomorrow.
There you go.
When you try to put those in words, like, you start to understand that some of these things that we take for granted are just like simple, could be complex to someone else. And I think that's with anything. For anyone who's never seen Josh speak, he speaks a lot about guest feedback, and you go through a model that I'm sure you think everybody should know sometimes. Sometimes you have to check yourself. Like, you go, yours isn't last. Yours has an extra letter. What is it?
It's hard to turn into an acronym because I put the thank, which we actually talked about in our last think tank, between listen and apologize. So and then thank is still at the end. So it's kind of latast, but lately I've just been calling it last with like a middle step in there.
That's something that you know so well. This is something that I learned about like teaching and learning. You know it so well that it almost sometimes seems like, God, I'm going to write another blog post about this, or I'm going to speak about this again. Doesn't everybody know this? And it's always so rewarding to me to go to somewhere and teach something I think and be like, oh my gosh, I really needed that, because we don't learn it until we need it.
Right. Absolutely. And then being able to see how people are perceiving the way that you are sharing it, that you were teaching it, also helps you better understand it as well. And think like, I'm going to continually improve on this as I teach it, as I speak at conferences. And next year I'll give the same session. Maybe it'll be repackaged a little different because I've learned more about it through teaching it.
Yep. So awesome. Well, thank you again. Where can people find you? Where can people find out about Roller, about this guest experience score? Where should we send them?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything about Roller is available at roller.software. You can click into the features section. You can learn about the GX score. Everything that we talked about actually is on the features page of the website, and how Roller can help you use technology to remove friction in the guest experience. You can also check out Roller's podcast, which is available on the Roller website, kind of an offshoot of the Roller website. It's under the Learn tab. It's called the Guest Experience Show. I host that.
Hosted by you.
Every week I post a new interview. You've been on it before, so thank you so much. I think it was like almost 2 years ago now that you were on. I think
it was when I released because we speak the same language in customer service. It was when I released my SOAR customer service strategy.
Yes, and I remember you clarify SOAR. So I was thinking it's not SORE. That would be
No.
So yes, I remember talking about the SOAR model with you. And then if people want to get a hold of me directly, you can reach me at josh@rollersoftware.com or just on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and I'm sure we'll have you back as a guest in the future.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Wasn't that interview great? I mean, can't we all just learn more about improving our efficiency in our operations and using technology? We're ready to embrace that to enhance the guest experience. And like Josh and I were talking about, we've got to meet people where they were. Thank you again to Josh for spending time with us and sharing all that with us today. Thank you to you guys for spending time with us today. Hopefully you learned a few tips and to move you forward. Thank you to my 2023 Think Tank sponsors, which is inclusive of Roller. And then if you have an idea for Think Tank, you want to be a guest on Think Tank, if you want to sponsor Think Tank, I'm your girl. So just hit me up, candy@trainertainment.net. We can talk about that. And other than that, you guys have a great productive week, and I will see you next time.
Introducing Mobile Wallet, the next gen in cashless fueled by Embed. Your virtual game card is added to the mobile wallet with no app download required. Just scan the QR code, then create your account in the mobile portal. Guests can do a quick reload of their game cards anytime, anywhere without leaving the game. They can also skip the kiosk and cashier lines, and there's no need for a balance check machine. With advanced security and encrypted tech, Embed's mobile wallet is the only FEC business solution compliant and approved by both Google and Apple.